one of the big names, the captain on that day, joins us now, John Eales. John, great to have you on Rugby Heaven, a true rugby legend. Not just a two-time World Cup winner, but a captain on one of those occasions as well. What did it feel like 26 years ago to lift Bill aloft?
Well, no, it's great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. And look, I think as you look back over those things, and even looking at that footage then, it sort of brings back some very good memories. But I think the main thing has always been just that relief. You know, when the final whistle goes, you know, all that work you've put in over all those years, and it's not even just the 4 years leading into that cup, it's many years before that as well, and the dream starts so many years before that. And then you have that moment where all of that comes to the conclusion and the whistle goes and you're the world champions. It's pretty special.
Ealesy, what do you remember on the day? I remember the night before, I was rooming with Joe Roff and didn't sleep. I reckon I slept about 30 minutes the whole night. And then you go into the game. We're all very nervous. We're playing France. What was your memory on the day itself?
I remember I didn't sleep very well the night before either, and like I'm usually a pretty good sleeper, and that whole week, you know, I was going to bed late because I couldn't get to sleep. I was getting up early, couldn't get back to sleep, and I remember I was just, you know, I just got a pen and paper and was just writing things down, you know, just to gather my thoughts a lot of the time. The day of the game was probably a little bit calmer. I remember trying to go through the same routine. You've got this balance between super excitement that you're about to run out in a World Cup final at a pretty special ground and nervousness that you know that your life's going to be different, not necessarily better or worse at the end of that game that afternoon, but you know it's going to be different. That's the moment where you have to make it happen. So you try to just be cool. And I think the great thing about our team at that time, as you'll remember, Tim, is we were a very composed team, very settled. You know, I was chatting with Rod McQueen this morning and we just had a chat remembering about, you know, how good that time was. You never forget the hard work you do, but I think it's the hard work that gives you the chance to be composed when it comes to the big moments.
Ealesy, what about actually watching it back? You were certainly out there. We saw the emotion after the game, but have you actually sat down and watched that Rugby World Cup final?
I have, but not for a long time afterwards, actually. And look, I can't even remember when, but it's funny when you go back to it, and you still remember, and you're waiting for things to happen. So look, I know that Kev gets a ball in this moment, or Roffy throws a pass to whoever, and it really does come back to you, Cameron, as you'd remember with a lot of the games you played as well. It's funny. It's funny watching it back because in some ways it seems really surreal. In many respects, I get more emotional watching those scenes that we just saw before. What it meant to other people, because you knew it meant a lot to you. You knew it meant a lot to your family and those people around you. But there were, probably a lot of people there that were maybe watching their first game of rugby or hadn't followed it much, and they were able to, the joy they got out of it was something special.
Ealesy, just remind everyone, remind me as well, I know through the game there, at one stage you threatened to take the Wallaby team off the pitch to the referee. Just remind me what happened there.
Yeah, look, the French were, they were going through, they were a tough team, but also there were, things happening that shouldn't have been happening in that game. And, I spoke to the referee and I said, look, if this continues, we just can't go on. And I remember at the time that Rafael Ibanez was their captain, wonderful guy, and also Abdel Benazir was a significant figure in that team. And I remember speaking to him, and he had a word to the team with the captain, and then it all stopped.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Yeah. I mean, I was only 11 at the time, but I don't remember that at all, and I do remember watching that game.
See,
late at night.
What would have happened is Ealesy would have said, "Okay, guys, we're going to leave the field now," and we wouldn't have followed him. Ealesy just would have walked off.
I don't believe that for a second.
Tested you, tested your loyalty.
John, we know you're part of a very, very elite group of people who've won 2 World Cups. Of course, you're part of the 1991 victory, which Tim was, and he reminds us every single day. Does one of those feel more special, 91 or 99, to you?
It's hard to say. Like, I suppose in a lot of respects, 99 only from the perspective that I was part of the team that went through the tough times beforehand. 91, like Tim had been involved for a couple of years. I came in that year, worked hard, but came into a team that had gone through a lot of the really tough times when they were playing reasonably well but not getting results. And then they started to turn it. And then a few guys came into the team that year, myself included, and we were able to really reap the benefits of a lot of the hard work they had done for years. Whereas 99, after being a part of 91, then we lost it in 1995. I became captain in 96. We got worse as a team, and then we started to get better. And we really built our way up from being a team that no one thought would be a chance of winning. And probably one of the things, and to being the team that won it, but one of the things I'm most proud of is that from Wallaby teams that were described as some of the worst ever, maybe 96 against the All Blacks when we had a record defeat at that point, 43-6, and from those teams, no one debuted after the end of the 97 season, where we were some of the worst teams, described as some of the worst teams. No one debuted after that time that played in the World Cup final in 99. So it was so pleasing to be able to work with a group of people that weren't considered that good to then become world champions, and not only world champions by winning the World Cup, but then to win the Tri-Nations and Bledisloes and British and Irish Lions series. That was probably what makes me feel proudest.
I'm sure we'll all toast tonight, Eales, a glass of champagne. Very quickly before we let you go, I know you've got to jump on a plane, but what have you made of this Wallaby team in the last couple of months? Good brand of rugby, good style, but need to win a few games very quickly.
Yeah, they do. I love the way they're always in it. Like they never give up. They were well beaten by England on the weekend. England probably able to shut them out better than any other team this year. I don't think any Wallaby team has been on a harder schedule than what they've had this year. To play 3 tests against the British and Irish Lions, 2 away in South Africa, 2 against New Zealand, 2 against a great, very, very strong Argentinian team that we know can beat anyone in the world. And then you've got a 5 test match tour at the end of the year. That is a really hard schedule. We've had a number of people unavailable, right throughout the year, whether it be through injury or just unavailable, like in the case of last weekend, couldn't select them while they were playing overseas. So I think while it was disappointing that they lost, I think the way that they're playing and the attitude that they have will mean that they're going to be a better team at the end of this year than what they were at the start. And they're on this journey that's going to give them an opportunity to be successful at the World Cup. The thing with rugby these days is probably any of 8 teams that can beat each other on the day, and then you go to the next group of teams, and there's probably 4 or 5 that can beat, maybe all but 2 or 3 of those top 8 teams on their day. So the strength right around the world at the moment is very, very strong. But that means it's so competitive, and it means that no game is a game that you can tick off before you play it. You've got to get out there and win each time. And that's great it's a great example of how healthy rugby is globally at the moment.
Absolutely. Well said, Ealesy. Mate, we'll let you get your flight, but I just want to say a massive thank you for joining us on Rugby Heaven. Been a fantastic guest, and it's good to have someone who's not only won 2 World Cups, but captained one of those as well, so we didn't have to listen to Timmy talk about being a 2-time World Cup winner. Thanks, Ealesy. Appreciate it.
John Ealesy, well done.
Thank you.
Stuff.
Yeah, he'll be very hard to top as #1 guest on Rugby Heaven this year. Great insight, great to hear his memories. What are your memories of 1999, Tim?
I suppose that game, that World Cup, was special, and I know you saw photos there or vision of, holding the cup up, and as we did that, as all the players came through and you met Her Majesty the Queen and all the dignitaries that were there on stage, and then Ealesy sort of said, well, let's put the cup in the middle of the ground. Everyone stood around, the whole team, the bus driver, the physio, everyone, the baggage handlers. And there was about 50 of us, and we sang the national anthem around just before we did a lap of honour. And the lap of honour, the first half of it took us about 30 seconds. Everyone was going too quick. Ben Shoon, Joe Roff, Todd Kefa, they're all running with the cup. Halfway around, we grabbed a few and said, guys, slow down. The last half of that lap was special and took us about 15 minutes. So I think that time, for me personally, in the dressing room, for about an hour after that game was some of the most special moments I've had in rugby.
Story time with Timmy, it's the best. Isn't it? Still get tingles. I feel like I should sit down on the ground cross-legged.
Oh, yeah. It's like he's reading a book to us in primary school. It was pretty cool watching that vision of you guys all sitting in the bathtubs, and I think it's Dan Crowley has Bill's lid sitting on his head, and someone else had the trophy somewhere. I was going to ask Ealesy this, but sadly he had to go, had to get to a flight. But did you get to chance to share any of that Guinness you won for scoring that rapid try with your teammates, Tim?
I did. Actually, John Eales used to have a betting day in Brisbane once a year, so I brought a couple of kegs up to Ealesy's place, and you had to drink a pint of Guinness every time you won a race. So I think someone else had a Bucks party, but I think I've got 2 kegs still sitting in the garage left over. 26 years ago.
Made a Rugby Heaven party at the end of this year. Well, that was incredible to have your insight, John Eales' insight as well. Big occasion, big history and historic moment for Australian rugby.